I don't know if I told you last week, my wife had to do some traveling for work, and part of
Yeah.
that traveling took her to New Orleans.
No
Uh,
kidding.
so yeah, apparently that's the happening spot right now. In case anybody missed it, I mean, she was there a week before the Super Bowl, but so's everybody else, right? People start trickling into New Orleans and Radio Row, and it's the who's who. I was trying to tell her, you never know who you're gonna see. Keep your eyes open down there in New Orleans.
Yeah, I mean, the whole week leading up is busy as heck. So there's so much stuff to do before you even go to the Super Bowl. So, in fact, some people just go. I know a guy that just goes just for the events all leading up to the Super Bowl, but doesn't actually go to the game.
Nice. That's I'll never understand that human being ever. But then again, Tom, people don't understand us on Wednesday night. I don't know what it is. We make plenty of sense. We're always right. We never miss. We're as consistent as they come. What's up, everybody? It's Wednesday night. I am Luke Patterson, and joined with me as always is Thomas Hall and Scott Kennedy on the ones and twos, bringing you Mile High Insiders. You can catch us every Wednesday night here at 6 p.m. Mountain. And what's up, Tom? We're here. It's Super Bowl week, Wednesday, February 5th. We are just days away from the damn Kansas City Chiefs and those Philadelphia Eagles squaring off in the big game. How are we feeling?
I feel like it's one of the most lackluster Super Bowls in a long time. I just have no desire to watch or participate. It's I don't know. It's just not exciting to me.
Yeah, it's tough. There's some fatigue, right? There's a lot of interest to me with Super Bowl week in general, right? There's lots of vendors and stuff, and that's cool in the business world, but it's always interesting to see what some of the former athletes are doing in their life post NFL career. And it's always, I don't know, kind of funny to me. Like, I can remember for years, it felt like 8 straight years, Bill Romanowski would go to every Super Bowl and plug some nutritional supplement or some, protein shake or something like
Yeah.
that. And then, you do get some cool stories too of Jake Plummer, right? And Rashad Evans and some of the other MMA fighters and what they've done in their specific industry with mushrooms and the healing properties of that. So it's cool to see what life looks like after football for some of these guys on Radio Row. But I'll tell you what's even cooler is when Sean Payton is doing national interviews with Kay Adams saying people better watch out, talking about positions of need. We've got Broncos that just finished the Pro Bowl, right? Last week, something like that. We can get into that and more. So I don't know. It's cool to see Sean talking during Super Bowl week. It's even cooler to know it's probably really driving him crazy to not be in this game, especially when it's in New Orleans, a city Sean knows very well.
Yeah, well, in that interview with Kay Adams, he kept saying when we were here, and you could tell that he still has a fondness for New Orleans.
Yeah, a fondness and probably a little bit of I want to stick it to those guys as he did on Thursday Night Football. And David Yonkin kicking off the show hot, fast, and furious. $5 over on YouTube. Thank you so much, Dave. David's coming in hot. Good evening, everyone. I think we need a tight end as a joker. And David obviously saw the sound waves that are making their way through social media, podcasting platforms, radio, wherever you get it. Kay Adams, Sean Payton, they have a good relationship. Kay comes out every training camp, right? And chalks it up with Sean. But she specifically asked him, what are the positions of need that you're looking at? And as David said, quote, we do the evaluation of our team. And the purpose of that is to establish musts, needs, and wants. I would say we need a joker. We're going to go into some of those musts, needs, and wants during this show tonight, Dave. I'm curious, Tom, the joker. It keeps coming up over and over. Scott and I are just ready to throw up. We can't stand it anymore. He talks about this joker position. He's jammed that square peg into the round hole, thinking it was Marvin Mims. It clearly wasn't. I ask you, Thomas Hall, David, MHI, MHH community, is the joker position this mystical unicorn that Sean Payton's never going to catch when there are pressing needs everywhere else on this roster?
Yeah, it seems strange that he keeps trying to find that joker and talking about it. It's like, he talked about Greg Dulcich maybe being that early on. And obviously, who exactly? So it is strange to talk about it, but he obviously wants it. He obviously thinks that's a huge need as someone who can create mismatches either from the tight end position or out of the backfield. But what he really said, which was very important in that interview, is they have to be an elite wide receiver in the running back position or the tight end position. And they don't have any of those. They don't have an Alvin Kamara. They don't have a Darren Sproles. They don't have a Jimmy Graham. So they need to go out and find one, at least one at the tight end or running back position.
I know Kay Adams brought up Reggie Bush right away, right?
Yeah.
And then, like you said, Coach immediately goes into all his famous successes from years and years ago, right? And we're sitting here in Broncos country like, yeah, that'd be nice. Could we live in the moment? You know, like that would be great. But Nick Kendall actually transcribed this interview and has a really good piece on it over at milehighhuddle.com right now. I say he transcribed it because I got to be careful these days. There are rules, apparently, Tom. I didn't know this. There are rules that can't be broken. So we're not just going to bring you this interview hot live on this very show, but it's interesting that Sean Payton described the joker position as, quote, a joker can be a tight end or a running back that has exceptional receiving ability. We were spoiled here in New Orleans when I think about it. We had Reggie Bush, Jimmy Graham, Jeremy Shockey, Darren Sproles, Alvin Kamara. Those are interior, either tight ends or running backs. They have to be elite receivers that can play tight end or running back. And then you get the matchups. We had quite a few of them here in New Orleans because you are getting too high defense and you have to work the inside. I get it. I know what the joker position is. I certainly know when you don't have it. Is this the biggest priority for Sean Payton? Because in that same interview, Tom, I know you watched it too. Kay went after the wide receivers right away and was kind of steered away from that by Coach. And Coach, well, I don't know. Cortland Sutton, we're feeling pretty good about him. He brought up Devon Bailey by name. He brought up Troy Franklin by name. He left Marvin Mims out. I don't think there was any issue with that. But he's like, look, we're pretty happy with our guys last year. Is that posturing by Sean Payton? Maybe trying to get teams to think he's looking specifically at an inside linebacker and a safety, positions he specifically listed on that 2-minute interview. He went out of his way to say inside linebacker and safety.
Well, inside linebacker is a huge need because they're probably going to need 2 new starters. So we've talked about that before, but I do think that he's not playing his hand. He keeps talking about the joker. And, people are like, oh, well, it could be a tight end or running back. Everybody knows they need a tight end and a running back. And then he's going to go out and sign a wide receiver or draft a wide receiver early and be like, yeah, I was just kidding about the joker being our top priority.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because, when I hear the joker, you got to remember I'm here in the heart of the Rocky Mountain Mile High region in Denver. The joker means something else here in this city. Former MVP Nikola Jokic, who's trying to get the Nuggets to bounce back. I guess they've been going through a rough spill. They're trying to figure out who they are now that the Lakers have Luka Doncic, and seems like the NBA's changed overnight, if you will. David Popaver coming in here, $5 over on YouTube. Appreciate you, Dave. Good evening, Broncos country. I am in favor of drafting 2 tight ends and a running back. Let's go, Bo. Yeah, David must have saw the interview as well with Kay Adams, where Kay just made sure, hey, you need wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs. And then Coach steered away from all of it. It's like, I don't know, maybe we need a joker because that's a little more vague, and I don't want to give so many things away. But David, you're right. There's a lot of need there. I would encourage everybody, including David, go on over to milehighhuddle.com. Tom just dropped an article, an analytics piece. And that piece is featuring the question, or answering the question rather, is it better to draft at certain positions versus addressing them at free agency for others? Now, this article is specifically for offensive players. Stay tuned. Defense will drop any day now.
Yeah, it was pretty fun. I mean, I looked at a ton of data for about 22 years worth of data to come to the conclusion on these. And it's specifically for impact next season. I mean, we're talking the Broncos are playoff contenders, but they need a couple key pieces to actually be real, true Super Bowl contenders. So it's what's going to give you the most impact in 2025 to get them, past that hump and into the Bills, into the Chiefs territory instead of, one and done in the playoffs.
Well, and here's the thing. We all love the story of the underdog with the Broncos making the playoffs this last year with Bo Nix seemingly coming out of nowhere. That's not going to be the case this next year, all right? The Broncos are on the NFL's radar. The climb is real. It's a copycat league. Broncos have lost a ton of assistant coaches, players, what have you. It's a new team, right? It's going to be really, really interesting to see what the Broncos do. But guys, speaking of Underdog, the best app for your big game party, Well, it's actually on your phone. It's called Underdog. Underdog is the best place to cash in on all your takes, especially during the big game this Sunday. Which players are going off? Which players are ice cold? Make your entries in just a few taps.
And with our pick'em game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower on player stats, i.e. yards, touchdowns, interceptions, and more. They've got all of your favorite leagues, teams, and stars to choose from. Create entries with all football picks or mix and match across your other favorite sports. Underdog is the only pick'em platform that puts the power to cash out in your hands. Now you can either keep riding with your entry or tap the win now button to cash out whenever you want.
Boom, guys, I can't tell you how much fun I've had playing Underdog. Download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today. Use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text next-step to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 HOPE line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
Boom. Underdog has your back. Speaking of who has my back, our guy DVA coming in here reminding everybody, sup Broncos country, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe on all platforms, and share as well. We really appreciate all the support. Dylan, hopefully you and yours are doing well out there in Cali, man. I see you. You're so damn ornery all the time. Speaking of ornery, look at this guy, Ralph Bracegirdle, our very own good friend of the show over on Facebook. Thank you so much for the support, Ralph. My guys, huge Facebook stars, dude. Appreciate you so much, Ralph. Hit me up, dude. We need to talk NFL draft. Speaking of talk, our guy Phil McLaughlin's always talking that bad junk to us every Wednesday night. Good evening, Luke Thomas and Deacon Scott. Is there any chance we pick up Holland or Hufanga in free agency and let PJ Locke go? Hashtag Buckham, MHH for life. Interesting, Tom. What does I know your analytics piece for defense drops in a couple days, so I don't need you telling any stories out of school just yet. But what do you think about PJ Locke and trying to upgrade in the defensive backfield?
Yeah, I mean, I like PJ Locke, but he's not the what you would call an elite player back there. So he's worth replacing if they can. I don't know if they're going to just cut him. They might bring in somebody that they think can supplant him and have PJ Locke, maybe he'll get disgruntled and want to be cut or whatever, but have him in the rotation because he is a valuable player, but he's not an elite starter. So, yeah, I mean, obviously they're going to look to upgrade that position. In fact, Sean Payton mentioned that position by name. I think their inside linebacker and interior defensive line is a bit of a higher need than safety, but I think they're going to look to upgrade from Locke because he was okay, but he wasn't great.
I completely agree with you. I've never been a big PJ Locke guy, so I'm probably the bad person to ask about this. I think he makes a lot of errors, if I'm being honest. I think he's out of position way too many times. Some of the missed tackles bother me. That's not to say that PJ Locke is not a good player and he doesn't have a spot on this team. I consider PJ Locke more of a depth player than a starter. I always have. Maybe that's just because we were so damn spoiled with what we had in the defensive backfield with Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson for so long. Now, that's not saying Kareem Jackson was some world beater the last couple years of his career. But remember, when he came to Denver, he actually came over as a converted cornerback from the Houston Texans, right? So to see the success that Kareem Jackson, Justin Simmons had, and now you try to pass that torch to a PJ Locke because you can't just replace the whole defensive backfield in one offseason, right? I mean, certainly you can try, but getting Brandon Jones, talk about what a pickup Brandon Jones was, Phil. I mean, I didn't see that coming, Tom. I don't know about you. I was pleasantly surprised. Now, if you're telling me that potentially he could be reunited with his former teammate at the free safety position in Javon Holland at 25 years old, coming off of a decent season with Miami. All right, I'll kick the tires on that a little bit. I wonder what the draft has to say too. You can always find a player in the draft, but then again, it takes time to develop it. This was a conversation you, Scott, and I were having right before the show started. And you and Scott, I mean, it's pretty obvious that for anyone with a working brain, it costs more in free agency for a known commodity, a known product, a player that has pelts on the wall, if you will, as opposed to taking that risk in contract figures. What do you think about the safety position, Tom? I mean, it's going to be addressed, but I don't want you to give away your article just yet. What would you say is more important to look at, free agency or the draft at free safety?
Well, actually, the player that I think that they should take a long look at and see what's going on with him is JL Skinner. They drafted him with high hopes, and I'm hoping that he's able to take that next step. So they may not have to worry about the draft. They may not have to worry about free agency if they think he has ascended enough to supplant PJ Locke. Now, whether or not they're going to put all their eggs in that basket is yet to be seen. But I think if they want immediate impact, they're going to have to go free agency for 2025. And if they want long-term replacement, to go, draft one as well.
Yeah. And, the trade market's always interesting. I know we always like to play the, what if pie in the sky. And rumor has it, Cooper Kupp's on the trading block, right? And I see Broncos country. Oh, hey, should we do this? Should we look at this? And I had tweeted about it a week ago when I heard the news as well. Should the Broncos look at it? I think they should look at it. And then you should look at the contract and figure out if it can be reworked, if you're going to be carrying more cap, or is he eventually going to have something restructured and it's a sign and trade kind of a thing like the NBA does? Is he just eventually going to walk and then maybe you court him as a free agent? I would prefer that route, if I'm being completely honest. But we're reacting this Wednesday night here on MHI. He's Thomas Hall, Scott Candy, Luke Patterson. We are reacting to Sean Payton and his favorite word of all time. Well, a second favorite word. I bet his first favorite word's a curse word because Coach likes to get after it. But it's Joker, right? He's telling Kay Adams, I'm looking for the Joker position. We have to remember, too, Sean Payton's a Joker. He's not a smoker. At one time, he was allegedly a midnight toker, but I'm sick of the position, Tom. I am so sick of it. Yeah. We talked about bringing in some free agent tight ends. I know Jawan Johnson was one guy I liked a lot coming over from the Saints because he was a Saint and Sean converted him from a wide receiver, right, to a tight end. Maybe that's on the radar for Coach, but it just felt like so much of that 2-minute clip that we're seeing on social media with Kay Adams and Sean Payton, so much of that 2-minute clip for me, Tom, was Sean going out of his way to stay away from wide receiver and running back. Right. Yeah. I mean, Kay comes out and she's like, hey, you need wide receiver, running back, tight end. Well, let's talk about Joker. Let's talk about inside linebacker. Let's talk about safety. Let's talk about the middle of the field. I couldn't tell if that was Coach being honest or if that was Coach being a little bit of a showman because, it's that type of week when you're at the Super Bowl. The showmen are out. I saw Coach take a picture with John Gruden. Did you see that, Chucky? Hanging out Sean Payton and Chucky having a couple cold pops. That has to be fun if you're a fly on the wall. Were you picking up some of those same vibes about maybe Sean Payton trying to misdirect teams into thinking he's going defense?
Yeah, I feel like that. I don't think he wants to play his hand. And, we are all tired of hearing about the Joker position. But guess what? If he finds one and he's good, we won't be tired of hearing about the Joker position. So hopefully he can find one. But, yeah, I mean, you can fill that role with like you said, with a running back or tight end. So he isn't really what I would say like hiding the cards or keeping them close to his vest. Everyone knows he's running back and tight end, but to stay away from the wide receiver specifically, I don't think he's fooling anybody. I think people know that the Broncos need a wide receiver. I think it's their number one need going into this offseason. So I think a lot of other, front offices can understand that as well. So I don't know if he's really fooling anybody this time.
Well, let's go with a different question rather. I mean, if Sean is so adamant that this team is looking for a Joker, reason would say that they don't have one. By that same nature, if we go along and we pretend Sean identifies his Joker and he gets him in the draft or this offseason, does that finally mean that we're done seeing Marvin Mims in the offensive backfield in a Joker type role? I mean, the young kid, he's doing quite well in his NFL career, especially as a returner. He had a really good season as a receiver. What's his trajectory look like for Marvin Mims? Because I'm excited to see it. I want to see him utilized a lot more in the slot. I'd like to see him utilized as a pass catcher a lot more. I could just tell you, Marvin Mims in the offensive backfield for the Broncos definitely didn't work. Now, that being said, nothing for the offensive backfield worked other than Bo Nix running for his life. What do you think Marvin Mims' trajectory is in Sean Payton's offense in 2025?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of it has to do that he needed more maybe development at the actual wide receiver position. So they were trying to get him involved any way that they could get him involved. And because he has a dynamic skill set, get him the ball in space, see what he can do, get him, going deep, get him in some mismatches. So if his development, if he gets a better route tree, he develops as a wide receiver, you're probably going to see less and less of that kind of gadget play from him and more straight up wide receiver. But the point is, if you want your best player to have your most dynamic playmaker to have the ball in his hands, you got to get it to him any way you can. And if he isn't getting open enough or he isn't effective at the wide receiver position, put him in the backfield or do whatever you got to do. I think his trajectory for next season is going to be more wide receiver, more straight up receiver, not a lot of gadget plays, because I think he did develop quite a bit as the season went along. So I think that trajectory is telling me he's going to be more involved, in the receivers and less gadget plays. You're on mute.
I agree with you, and I don't think that Sean is fooling many folks. Let's just say that, right? Why? Because he found his quarterback, right? It's all about the quarterback. Well, we think we found the guy in Bo Nix, feeling pretty damn good about that. So why not go try to make things better with a tight end, a wide receiver, an offensive player? But let's stop this Joker nonsense. David Yonkin circling back around. Do you guys really think Sean Payton gave anyone a straight answer? Because he talks a lot and says nothing. David, that's so awesome, man. It's funny when you hear these coaches talk and you hear coach speak and you get used to it, right? Especially when you listen to him nonstop. My favorite is when coach likes to either get after somebody or compliment him, because he does it in one of two ways, right? If he likes whatever he was asked, he will always say, "That's a fair question. That's a fair question," every time. But if it's something he may be a little, I don't know, I want to steer this in another direction, and maybe David's seen this as well. Sean likes to say, look, and he purposely grabs hold of the conversation and takes it where he wants to go. Now, you can say that makes Sean Payton an ass. He's trying to dominate the conversation. He's a control freak. He's an egomaniac. And you know what I'd say? He's an NFL head coach. And I completely agree with you, David. I think there's a lot of talk, but it's not always nothing. Sometimes it's what Sean doesn't say, like today when he didn't want to talk about the wide receivers in the draft or in this offseason. He specifically brought up Devon Vele and Troy Franklin by name after Kay Adams said, you got Cortland. I know you love your guy. Coach stayed away from the wideout, man.
Yeah, and on top of it, though, it's not just for next year. I mean, the Cortland Sutton's not going to be around in a couple of years, in my guess. I mean, his contract's going to expire, and he's going to move on most likely. I don't think they're going to re-sign him. Vele's a rookie, but he's about as old as dirt as well. So, I mean, they've got a plan for the future. So there is a lot riding on this draft when it comes to wide receiver. In my perspective, I think they're going to go out and get one in free agency. I was kind of a little bit not high on T Higgins, but after doing the research and looking at the analytics, I think that'd be a good spot for them to go. I think they're going to go after it pretty hard to get a wide receiver.
Well, let's just get into it real quick because Coach broke it down. He said, we quote, and you read about this over at milehighhuddle.com. Tom's got an article up, analytics for offense. Is it better to draft certain positions or go after them in free agency? Read that at milehighhuddle.com. And then our guy Nick Kendall has an article up as well, transcribing Sean Payton's appearance on the Kay Adams show. And Sean said, quote, "We do the evaluation of our team, and the purpose of that is to establish musts, needs, and wants. I would say we need a joker." So need. It is need above must. It has to be, right? Sean's putting that.
Must I thought must was the number one, and then need, and then want. I don't know.
I'm confused. David Yonkin, let us know. We were just talking about this, right? David said coach says nothing and everything all at the same time. And there's a perfect example of it, Dave, right? Because I write it down, must, needs, and wants. And then I start filling in my roster, right? And on where I think positions are and things of that nature. And it's tough, right? So wide receiver, Tom, you're Sean Payton, or what do you think Sean Payton thinks for wide receivers? Is that a must, a need or a want?
I think it's a must. I mean, everybody saw the wide receiver play. I think it's a must. I think he's downplaying it. I think that he knows they've got to get another wide receiver who can, make something happen, make some plays, dynamic that defenses respect. And we saw it. Bo did an admirable job, but can you imagine how much better it would have been with a true number one wide receiver, a difference maker who can go out there and really dominate a defense? It would have, I mean, who knows what his year would have been like. And I think they may have even, won a few more games.
Well, and I agree with you. Now that you've got Bo, you need to figure out the wideout. And for the biggest Cortland Sutton fan in the world who's out there listening right now and can't stand me because I didn't want him back this last year, and I continually ask the question, how many one-year rentals are we going to do? He's not getting any younger. I know. He just had statistically the best season of his year, really, right? I mean, it took getting a rookie quarterback to do that. I'm not trying to chase Cortland off. What's the point? The point is Cortland is not getting younger, and you're not sure how these other wide receivers are going to pan out. Now, they did well for rookies, right? Devon Bailey had a nice year as a rookie. Troy Franklin, decent year as a rookie. That doesn't translate to the expectations for next year, right? Those are all been raised. You've been in the league for a year. Bo's been in the league, offense for a year. You should start to figure some of this stuff out. So as the player changes, the expectations change as well. And you don't know if you have anything for sure in those guys. I completely agree with you, Tom. I mean, maybe you do need to go after a known guy like a T. Higgins. I think I'd prefer a T. Higgins to a Chris Godwin, and we go over that and we can debate that until free agency starts. But let me ask you this, Tom. Speaking of the knowns and the unknowns and your analytics pieces that you are writing for milehighhuddle.com right now, one is up. All right, must. A wide receiver is a must. If it's a must, and it truly is a must, would you be willing to explore any and all possibilities of acquiring said wide receiver, including a trade?
Yes, absolutely. I think I think it was the number one. I know that the running game was terrible, and I understand that there needs to be a running back. I think you can find a serviceable running back. It's not, that will upgrade the offense. It doesn't have to be a superstar, but upgrade that portion of the offense. Wide receiver to me was a huge need, and someone you need to get someone that can grow with Bo Nix. I don't think Cooper Kupp is that guy that you want to trade for to grow with him. I mean, Cooper Kupp, often injured. You're more likely to get 60 catches and 600 yards out of him as opposed to another 1,000-yard season at this point in his career.
Yeah, and you already
price tag. So
that's just it. And you already have that kind of guy, right? Different receiver, but you have an aging veteran who has battled some health issues and already has accomplished some things. So it's kind of the same situation, different players, right?
Yeah, exactly. Different players, but I would argue that Cortland Sutton is staying healthier. He had that major injury, but Cooper Kupp has always there's only been 2 seasons where he's played almost every game or all games. Every other time he's been dinged up, injured, and he's not getting any younger. Now, the one piece I will say is oftentimes these kind of older wide receivers, they get a second wind in like 32 years old, and they have a great year. So you could, you'd be gambling on someone like Cooper Kupp. You'd be gambling with a high salary cap. You got to trade away something for him, and you're hoping that he has that resurgence. Likely not. Just based on his injury history, it's likely not going to happen. But that's what you'd be doing. You'd be hoping for one more big year out of him, and then then you got to decide what you're going to do with him after that.
Ralph coming in. Thank you so much for the support, Ralph, over on Facebook, guys. These super chats on YouTube, the stars on Facebook, they go a long way. Thank you very, very much. Cortland is too old. Look at Larry Fitz. Tom still does his job great. I love the 3-sentence structure there, Ralph. You're my guy, dude. Like, I love the thoughts. There's so much.
Almost a haiku.
Right? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. There's so much to chew on. The meat on that bone is there. Here's the thing. There's only one Mike Evans, last I checked, man. I don't know how that guy, the older he gets and the more banged up he gets, he still does what he does. He still throws down touchdowns for the Bucs, man. He's catching everything. I don't get it, man. Mike Evans is that guy. Cortland Sutton's definitely not a Mike Evans.
Well, that's the thing, Luke, is Hall of Fame level players tend to have better careers as they age, right? They do. I mean, I've looked at this age analysis analytics for a long time. You get Hall of Fame players at certain positions, they're still doing pretty well into their late 30s, right? And maybe even at 40 in some positions. But the players who are just really, kind of good, they start to fall off much faster. And typically like a wide receiver at 29, that most of them are pretty much done, right? They're not starting as much. They're not getting those awards. They're not performing at a high level. So when you're talking about getting these aging folks to bring in, they have to be like Hall of Fame level type player. So Mike Evans would be one that you may be like, wow, that guy could have one more good year in him, most likely at his age, right? Or two more good years in him. They're not going to be prime years, but they're going to be good.
Yeah, they're not going to be like anomalies, right? Like it's outliers, those sorts of things. David coming in at 199 over on YouTube. Which wide receiver do you want to spend on in free agency? We talked about T. Higgins, right? I think Tom and I are both prefer T. Higgins over Chris Godwin. I would challenge a different question, Dave. And this is to Tom, and we'll open up the Broncos country as well. How about a pie in the sky transaction? What do I mean by that? I just asked Tom because Tom told me, based off of Sean Payton's answer to Kay Adams, he said there are musts, needs, and wants for the Denver Broncos. And I asked Tom, where do you think wide receiver falls for Sean Payton? He said wide receiver is a must out of the must, needs, and wants. I then asked Tom, would you be willing to explore anything and everything to go get that wide receiver, even if it meant a trade? Tom, without missing a beat, says yes. You know where I was going with that, Tom. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Jamar Chase. What's going on in Cincinnati with Jamar Chase, man? A deal is not done. He's in the Pro Bowl. He's the Triple Crown winner. And the reason I bring Jamar Chase up, we just got done talking about Cooper Kupp, right? A lot of people want the Broncos to explore that option. Cooper Kupp, former Triple Crown winner. Let's go to another Triple Crown winner in Jamar Chase, man. A contract extension has not been done. People in Cincinnati are pissed. They wanted the deal to be done last year. They're thinking there's going to be a deal done this season. Do the Broncos pick up the phone and figure out if they could try to get in the conversation for a Jamar Chase, or would the deal just be too rich and unrealistic?
Well, I mean, you know what you're getting in him, so you're going to trade away more than you normally would, because you never know what you're going to get in the draft, even if you have a first round pick. So if he becomes available, heck yeah, you're picking up the phone. I mean, that guy's a difference maker. He'd be a difference maker in Denver, would really put that offense over the top. You're dealing with the Bengals too. I don't know what it is about the Bengals. They tend to mess those things up. I don't know why.
They're cheap asses. They always have been. They've
had a history of it. So who knows if they're going to mess it up? But yeah, if you could pry him away, that would be a difference maker that you have on your offense finally, that you needed all year that you didn't have.
So years and years ago, when Cecil first moved in across the street, right, he had a housewarming party, and Big Al was there, Alfred Williams. And I'm talking to Big Al, and I'm asking him about his playing days, right? And he's entertaining me. I'm sure he gets bored to death with these questions. I'm like, man, what was it like getting drafted from the CU Buffs national championship team to the Bengals? And he's like, dude, it sucked. I'm like, why? He's like, because they were cheap. I'm like, cheap? Everybody says things are cheap. How cheap we talking? He goes, guys were sharing cups, that type of cheap in the 80s and 90s. Now, while I don't think the Bengals are sharing cups or anything, I hope they're not sharing cups. Maybe it's time to kick those tires a little bit. Sean Payton, a man who's bold, unapologetic, certainly marches at the beat of his own drum. Gosh dang, I would be ecstatic if Jamar Chase, somehow the conversation started. And sometimes we don't know if these conversations are even happening. I can remember being shocked about Russell Wilson getting traded to Denver. Absolutely shocked. I didn't even see that coming. Now, I'm not Adam Schefter. I don't pretend to be. I'm not going to, I'm so shocked. No, I wouldn't know those things. But Russell Wilson, nobody saw that coming. So maybe deals, potential things, they're being shot out of a cannon. People are trying to throw darts on the wall. I don't know, Tom. I just want freaking Jamar Chase here in Denver.
It would take a lot. I mean, I don't know what they would end up having. It would be a lot.
I got it. Nick Benito, a first-round pick, a second-round pick, Devon Bailey. Does that get the conversation started?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think
Gets it started.
they would be
Not
looking for they'd be looking for some couple high first rounders probably. I don't know, man. It's hard to say. It's hard to say, but Jamar Chase is an elite player. To get rid of an elite player, you got to pay. You got to pay up. So
You're right.
I don't know if that's rich enough.
Now you said, okay, and that's fair. Now I'm not saying that would close the deal. I'm asking, is that worth opening the door saying, hey,
yeah, sure.
Well, would you like to explore the conversation instead of the reality of whether or not it would happen? I think that's probably, I imagine at least that's how some of these things happen, right? It's like in The Godfather, it's all about respect. You're not just going to come up to some team with some cheap ass deal and insult their intelligence, right? You can't do that. You can't be the New York Giants, folks. Or the Dallas Cowboys. Not everybody can get there. But I agree with you, Tom. You said it would take multiple high first round picks. Now, I agree. I said maybe Nick Bonito, a 1, a 2, Devon Vele gets this conversation started. If you're Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos, are you planning on having high first round picks or high round picks
No.
at all? You're supposed to be a playoff caliber team year in and year out. At least that's my expectation. Do you want to know why that's my expectation? Because they have the head coach and the quarterback. And if you have those two things, you should be a lot closer than a lot further away. Doesn't mean you're there yet, but my expectation is there. And I'm a Sean Payton guy. He's nowhere close to accomplishing his goal. We're getting there. We're chipping away. But if the Broncos aren't supposed to be picking high in the first round, maybe F them picks sounds good when it comes to bring Jamar Chase. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Throw them out there. The only problem with getting rid of a bunch of draft picks, the Broncos don't have a lot of depth, and they need to build that. So you get rid of too many picks, you're kind of hurting your depth, and that can come back to bite you. If obviously they've been healthy, which is great, but if the health bug does hit them, that digs into their depth. So,
and they just did that, to your point, Tom. They just did that, to your point. They've been needing depth for a million years, and then they traded away all that depth to get Russ, right? So,
right.
To your point and Broncos Country's point, it was like, maybe we should stop getting out of the mindset of we're always spenders in the trade market. At least it makes some sense, right? Because we know how much it stings and really how long it sets you back. And we can look at the Rams, and I just went, Les Snead, F them picks. Look how far it's put them back in a way. Now they got a Super Bowl, but they're paying for it here on the back end.
Hey, if it gets a Super Bowl, it's all worth it, man.
Well, let's go get Jamar Chase.
Someone put out a question a while back. Would you, if you could get a Super Bowl for your favorite team, but have the rest of that decade be a bad team, but you always get a Super Bowl? I'm like, heck yeah. If that was the case, the Broncos would have 6 Super Bowls right now. So hell yeah, I take that every day. So you got to suffer through a few bad years, and then bang, you win a Super Bowl.
Stop it, Tom. You're too much. Ralph, dude, thank you for being so patient and such a good friend and a huge supporter, man. It means a lot, Ralph. Coming in big on the Facebook stars. How about the Denver Broncos buying helmets for every high school team in Colorado? Best team out there. Yeah, Ralph, this was kind of near and dear to my heart, man, because I've talked about it on the show for many years, what the Broncos and Pat Bowlen and Mike Shanahan meant to me as a kid, but as a high school athlete, they did a lot for me. And I was one of the first high school teams under Dave Logan to ever play at Broncos Stadium, right at Mile High, to actually have cleats on the grass, man. And that means so much to a dumb 16-year-old kid that just loves playing football, man. So to see the Walton Penner ownership group continue and enrich the tradition that the Bowlen family had for so many years, Tom, it means a lot to me, man. So Ralph, that means a lot to me. I saw it and I had tweeted out there at Luke Patterson LP. I'm like, surely, God rest his soul, Mr. Bowlen is looking down with a big smile right now, because it's what that man would have wanted. The Walton Penner ownership group, they've spared no expense on the team, but in terms of the community and being stewards, Broncos Country and the Walton Penner ownership group appear to be made for each other, man. Their heart is in the right spot.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I can't imagine getting a helmet like that. When my first helmet was this old Riddell helmet that was like old foam on the inside. I don't even know if I don't even know if it was a real helmet at that, like some play helmet that I got handed to me. But I can't even imagine as a kid getting those helmets. I mean, it's got to be amazing.
And as a coach, to be able to gift your player, to get your players excited, and as a coach to know that your guys and gals are safe. I mean, Jesus, we're both parents, right? Like that is the number one priority as a parent, man, is my kid safe, healthy, and happy. And I think check with the Walton Penner ownership group. So really cool of you to give them a shout out, Ralph. I appreciate you bringing that up. Scott weighing in. Hey, remember the plastic squares for cushions
that was
inside?
it. Yeah.
Those Rydells were torture. Yeah, you guys had the worst helmets, man. Like by the time I came around, I was rocking the good stuff. I liked the Schutt helmets. That's what I wore, the Schutt DNA for a time. I switched to Rydell a little bit, experimented with it in high school. Wasn't a huge fan, but back then when I did it, the D linemen didn't have Rydells. All right, like it was all about full cages. Do you remember when face masks used to be cool, by the way?
Yeah.
I can't stand all the face masks they have now. And I blame Justin Tuck, former New York Giant. He ruined the face mask for absolutely everybody, but a trip down memory lane with equipment. But no, you and Scott, man, you guys had some absolutely nasty helmets. And Scott's reminded me, Bike was a helmet as well.
Yeah.
And then
they had pumped them up with the little, you pumped them up with a little air pump. Yep, we had those too.
Exactly.
It was an upgrade from my foam Riddell it was a flat face mask too. It wasn't even round. It was like one of those old ones with it was still flat.
I absolutely love it. Well, and it was funny too growing up because then you could always like count on certain face masks in the league. So like Shane Leckler for the Raiders, right? Janikowski. I could always remember them being one of the last with the single bar or whatever, right? And you just kind of got used to it. I don't know why it bothers me so much, and I can't say it because I'll get in trouble, but I have a name for the face mask with the middle bar going down for linemen. It's uglier than hell. Mike McGlinchey wears it and it drives me crazy. It's probably one of the reasons I'm so mean in my analysis.
I love those helmets. I love those. Oh my
God, they're so stupid, Tom. They make him look like a big ogre, a big dumb caveman. I can't stand it. Ralph weighing back in, circling back around on me calling the Bengals cheap, telling my Big Al story. Our high schoolers won't have to share cups. And that's exactly right, Ralph. The Walton Penner ownership group spares no expense, unlike the Cincinnati Bengals, man. That's funny. Now you guys got people going on the face masks. Adam weighing in. O-line face masks from the 70s were dope. Don't forget the D linemen as well.
You want a face mask story? Go check out my Old Legends Mile High story when I tell about how Haven Moses got traded to the Denver Broncos. Had to do with a face mask. He wanted to wear a single bar, and it pissed the coach off. And it was a catalyst for the trade to the Denver Broncos. It was over a freaking face mask, which you end up having to go to 2 bars anyway. It started to become the rule.
When he was a receiver, right? Last night.
Oh, yeah.
You probably want to protect that face a little, but then again, the D lineman thought, right? Like those guys want to be able to see the ball and not so many things in their eyes. And now you've got every guy with an oak visor, right? Which, by the way, were the coolest things ever in high school. I mean, you could try to pass off the Nike or the Under Armour, but they looked like hell, and everyone know they look like hell. The Oakleys now, what they're doing now, absolutely awesome. And now while I'm on this little spiel, do you guys remember like the neck rolls? How about the neck rolls? I wore a
neck roll.
Did you have a neck? Yeah, Tom. I got to see a picture. We got to get some pictures and do like a story time on MHI, especially this offseason. Because you had neck rolls, then you had was it just the thing that stuck out? Was it just like a neck pad? Because the neck roll went around, and then you had just the straight up pad. That the linebackers, some linebacker that never played and was the backup always wore. It seemed that way at least.
The neck roll. I mean, it was all about the big pads back then. Now it's small pads. You want to be able to move, but back then it was like big, gigantic pads, neck roll. I mean, it was. It was as much stuff as you could get on.
And I can remember growing up, and Ed McCaffrey was always hurt because he never wore any pads in his legs, right? And like now you
if he could go out there with just the jersey on, he would have.
I know, an absolute animal. And like, it's like, thank God Christian wears his pads, but he's definitely hurt all the time too. Maybe we could get him a different set of something. It's crazy, man. And we're wrapping up our show here on MHI. It's Wednesday night. Thomas Hall, Scott Kennedy, yours truly, Luke Patterson, rocking with you guys every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Mountain. We are reacting to news of the day, sound clip of the day, rather. Sean Payton telling Kay Adams he's continuing his quest for the illustrious Joker. It's a unicorn, a famed unicorn that Sean is bound to catch while he's down there in New Orleans. Don't catch anything else while you're down there in New Orleans. Here's the other thing, too. You start looking at the Broncos, news of the day. Looks like they lost another brass. Remember their brass to what? The Raiders? It was the assistant GM, or what was the official position? Can you talk to me about that, Tom?
I don't remember what his official position is. He's going as like an assistant GM or something like that to the Raiders. But yeah, he was like a do-it-all kind of administration guy that's been around forever. He came in with Josh McDaniels, and they liked him enough to keep him around since then, which was that's a big deal if you survived the Josh McDaniels era. So yeah, he got plucked away. So that's a lot of folks from the Broncos have been plucked away this year.
Yeah, Mark Thews is the gentleman's name. He'd been, like you said, with the organization for the last 16 years, and the Raiders hired him. The article dropped yesterday over at milehighhuddle.com. Zach grabbed it for us. Tom Pelissero reported Tuesday the Raiders hired him as their senior vice president of football ops and strategy. And strategy. Don't forget that part. They need a lot of strategy. They're the Raiders, I did think it was funny when Chad retweeted this article, because Chad goes, you ever notice that it's always the Raiders coaches going for the Broncos guys, and it's never the other way around? I see what you did there. Anytime we could take a cheap shot at the silver and black, let's do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, big rival. Anytime you can get that shot in, you might as well take it. Because I remember back in the day when the Raiders were, had one over on the Broncos most of the time. So it's nice to see that the Broncos aren't in the doghouse anymore, and the Raiders are.
Not in the doghouse anymore. We are one game away from the offseason officially starting, I think. Can we officially say that once the Super Bowl is over? We are into the 2025 offseason. We already are. Scott, Chad, they were down, boots on the ground for Mobile. Read all about it over at milehighhuddle.com. We've got draft coverage, guys in the morning, guys at night, working their asses off over at milehighhuddle.com. Stay tuned. Also follow us on Twitter. That's on X rather, at Mile High Huddle. Yours truly at Luke Patterson LP. Reach out to Tom at Thomas Hall NFL. Scott at Scout Kennedy. Let's talk Super Bowl for a few minutes on the way out. Tom, I like to always ask, I'm a creature of habit, so I like to know what people's traditions are, if they have any. I think Super Bowl is almost an American culture thing. Can we say that? It feels like it's a deep part of our culture. People always want to know who's playing at the halftime show. What are the commercials going to look like? Usually, isn't there usually an interview with the big politician, if I need to say that? Like, it feels like there's always other events tied in to the Super Bowl. Do you have any specific things that you really enjoy watching other than the game?
Not really. The commercials used to be fun and funny, but they're kind of lackluster to me now. I don't know. I don't really dig it that much. So me, it's the game. That's all I really care about. Yeah. Sometimes the concerts are fun that they do. I mean, some of them are pretty dang good.
Yeah, you ready? You ready? You ready for Kendrick? I know you are. I know you're a big Kendrick Lamar guy, and you're ready.
Not really.
Stay humble. Stay humble. No, I'm with you, man. Like, I'm right there with you. I feel like, such as the kids would say, you're an old head. I am an old head, because the commercials used to be funny. Like when you could actually have a beer commercial with frogs. I loved it. That's all it takes for me. I'm a simple creature. It doesn't need to be a lot. How about the actual game? Do you watch it with your girls? Do you have buddies over? I know you're tearing up the kitchen. You're probably going to have it screaming on the counter while you're painting or putting in sheetrock, right? I mean, talk to me about that. Do you like to watch with friends? Do you prefer to be a guest, a host?
Well, it's fun to have a party, but we haven't done it in a long time. And yeah, you're right. I've got my kitchen torn down to the studs. I'm trying to put it back together. So I'm not going to be throwing any get-togethers for sure. But yeah, I back in the day, I threw a couple really good Super Bowl parties, so it was fun. But yeah, I don't really care. Watch the game. I'm not interested in this one that much. I just hope the Chiefs lose.
Roy's making chili and snacks. I absolutely love it. I usually watch the game with my girls, and my girls are awesome. They watch games with me all year, and unless the games aren't going too well, then I'm not a lot of fun to watch it with. And it kind of it sucks for other people on Broncos game day because I'll get invited, right? Family, friends, or hey, we should all just the Bronco game, right? And I'm like, y'all don't understand. It's a work day for me. Like I am not a fun person to watch the games with. Not because I'm moody, though I am. Not because I'm, immature, though I am, but because I'm just like, I'm locked in and I don't really care about what's happening next week. I'm not going to ask you how your day was at work or how the family's doing. Like, that's my time, right? And so the Super Bowl's a little different because then it's like, well, let's make fun of the commercials or let's make fun of the halftime show, right? Or, like my girls, it's interesting to share a different perspective with them. But I like to cook. I like to get on the grill. I see Roy's going to be cooking up chili. I like grilled chicken wings, man. I'm telling you, I know everybody likes fried chicken wings, but you can get the grilled chicken wings just as crispy. You got an indirect method, nice and easy, and then flash them at the last second. Cody Dubs coming in $5 over on YouTube. Guess when a 5-win team puts the NFL on notice with nobody's, the word gets out fast. Getting cryptic on me, Cody. Getting cryptic.
I think he's talking about the Broncos from the 5 wins 2 years ago, maybe. I don't know.
Cody, are you throwing shade at our guys? I mean, I like to do it too, but just make sense of it for me because I thought they did all right. I thought we were in a good place. I mean, Scott and I can't stand Sean talking about the Joker position, but other than that, I think we're doing pretty good. But look, Cody's right. The expectations are there for the Broncos to win now. Now, just getting in the playoffs doesn't cut it in 2025, does it, Tom? I mean, hey, everybody, rookie quarterback. They make it to the playoffs and lose in the first round next year. What's the excuse going to be then? Because this year it was Bo's a rookie and he didn't have enough help. He doesn't have enough wide receiver help. He doesn't have running back help, and he doesn't have tight end help. It's also, Vance Joseph. What's it going to be when Vance Joseph leaves eventually and it's Bo and Sean? I mean, how long can you just continue to spin? Sooner or later, you either meet the expectation or you don't. And the Denver Broncos just limping into the postseason in 2025 next year, that's not going to cut it. Not for anybody. Not for me on this damn show. I'll tell you that.
No, absolutely not. My expectation is to at least improve by 2 wins and actually make some noise in the playoffs because they did it with a young team, unexpected. The roster was they played better than expected. They need to show some more improvement. They need to be true contenders. They need to go out and get those key players that they need. So I've got high hopes for them.
Our guy from across the pond, WJB, Super Bowl for him, wearing your team's jersey, get some beers and food with your friends. And gosh, I hope the Chiefs don't win. That's an interesting question, Will. Tom, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about it's game day and another fan base injects themselves in game day, right? So everybody's got their Chiefs, their Eagles jerseys on, and then the Bronco jersey guy walks in. How do you feel about that guy? Because that guy is William, and I've always had an opinion on it, but I want to hear yours.
I don't really care. I don't care what people wear, but it's funny because if you're in a room full of one team and then someone is just kind of steps in with a completely different team jersey, they're definitely an outsider.
Yeah, I come at it from a bully mentality too, Tom. I look at that guy, that gal, and I'm like, what's the matter with you? You don't belong here. No, for sure, Will. That's awesome. I look at it from a homer's point of view. What do I mean by that, dude? I'm a Colorado native. I've always been here. So when I see other jerseys in Colorado, other NFL jerseys, it bothers me. I don't know why, because I'm an idiot. Like, it just makes me mad, Tom. I don't say anything. Now, if it's a Raiders jersey, I'll say something. And I'll be like, oh, Raiders, huh? When's that going to work? And now I can really say something because the Broncos are in a better spot. But no, man, it's cool to see people rep their pride, to have a good time. It should be a good day. And hopefully everybody can stay safe too in this crazy world that we're living in, man. As long as you're safe, as long as you're having a good time, rep your Broncos jerseys at the Super Bowl party. Try to upset some Chiefs fans because fly, Eagles, fly, right? I don't know why they bother. But I guess we're rooting for the Eagles. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a bummer. I don't really care about either team, but I definitely care. I just want the Chiefs to lose. I don't root for anybody to win except the Broncos, but I root for teams to lose, and I want the Chiefs to lose. I've been wanting them to lose for a long time.
Did you see the commish this week? Roger Goodell out there on Radio Row or doing his, State of the Union at the Super Bowl, if you will, every year. obligatory. And he's like, I think it's ridiculous that people think that, Chiefs and officiating. And then you got former officials. I think it's ridiculous. Then you got other former officials who are like, yeah, they're on the take. I mean, it's an interesting controversy, right? Then you got Travis Kelce. I can't believe people are talking about this. Well, for a man who has the most
open your eyes.
For a man who has the most exceptional awareness I've ever seen on the field, he doesn't have that at all when it comes to off the field. So I don't know. The storylines there are going to be interesting, right? I'm going to throw up in my mouth when he proposes to Taylor Swift when the Chiefs win. I just hope that Travis Kelce gets the hyphen. So it's Travis Kelce Swift next year in 2025. That's all I want to see.
I hope she says no.
Prenup. She's like, you got to sign this, Trav. No, it'll be interesting, man. Like, care to give a prediction? I know there's not a lot of care, right? And I know that we're upset and we're both kind of in the same spot with it. But I have the Chiefs winning. Shocker. I'm going to keep it close for the conspiracy theorists and for what I actually think is happening, which is favoritism with the Chiefs. I've got 30-27 Kansas City. The league's going to try to keep it close. That's not to say Philadelphia is not a good team. They're a damn good team. In fact, I think they probably are the most complete team at this point in the season right now. And it's not just because of what Saquon's doing. I do like watching their defense. They have holes. They're able to be beat as well. But 30-27 Chiefs. I hope it's not true.
Yeah, I hope so too. I don't have a prediction, but for me, I'm hoping that the Eagles can have the retribution from a few years ago and take it away. I hope Saquon goes off, even though he's going to push Terrell Davis out of the top spot for the most yards in full season, including postseason, most likely if he has a big game in the Super Bowl. But hey, I'd rather that than the Chiefs. The Chiefs win.
And I don't want to root for Vic Fangio, being honest, right? Like, I don't screw that guy. Like, I don't want to hear from him. And he did come out this week. He's like, yeah, Sean offered me the gig, but I didn't think it was the right time. And, just it wouldn't have worked. And I thought that was a really wise decision for Vic Fangio to make. I actually think it was a little reckless for Sean to look at Vic as the DC. I mean, it's a changing of the guard, and there's so many little nuances and odd things that go with it. Cody Dubb coming back in. Taylor Swift gonna back another breakup song. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I don't know. Jalen Carter, it's a lot of fun watching him play. The Eagles have a lot of talent. I'm not a Nick Sirianni guy. I'm definitely a Howie Roseman guy. I love the hell out of the way that guy has built his team and has gotten that franchise there. So that is about it. We are going to get on out the door. If you would like to reach out to us, please do so at MHI_pod. We need to beef those numbers up. The mothership at Mile High Huddle. Head on over to milehighhuddle.com. Thomas Hall has an article up right now, an analytics piece based on the Broncos offense. What do the stats and analytics say? Is it better to draft offensive positions or address them in free agency? Extra, read all about it over at milehighhuddle.com. The defensive side of that article will publish any day as well. And guys, we appreciate the show. It's always a lot of fun, a ton of energy tonight, especially for the off season. So absolutely appreciate you guys, and I love it.
Yeah, no kidding. It's been fun, and I can't wait for us to get into the meat of the off season. It's coming up. A couple more weeks, we're going to be talking free agency, then draft, and that's it goes all year. It seems like the NFL has always got something to talk about. So there's a couple lulls here and there, but I'm ready for the free agency period to really start to ramp up.
Me too. We are rocking and rolling, guys. Super Bowl, Eagles, Chiefs happens this Sunday. Everyone be safe, be happy. Into Super Bowl weekend. This is the way.
This is the way.